Hello and welcome to Applying Functional Anatomy. I'm Marcos Papakostas, and I'm here to talk about some foundational training. And I know in my last episode I talked about how I'd be talking about nutrition with a guest, but unfortunately the guest wasn't able to make it to the episode. So I figured I'd kind of just switch gears a little bit and talk about some foundational training. So, what is foundational training? Foundational training is a set of movements that teaches individual muscles to act in concert with one another. And this helps the muscles act together in a chain so you can disperse your weight more evenly and maintain postural alignment. Um, I, I really recommend this type of training if you're just beginning in the gym. If you're an athlete, I encourage to start here. It's very good for muscle imbalances, whether it be strength, size, endurance, stuff like that. Um, you want a really good foundation, right? And that's in the name. So you really want to start your fitness, athletic, whatever career you want to build on a very good foundation. So foundation training is really the best way to begin. So foundational training includes balance, core, and flexibility. So what is balance? So we'll start with balance. And so the Google definition for balance is an even distribution of weight, enabling someone or something to remain upright and steady. So how do you work on balance, right? We want to get better at balance. And a word that goes with that is proprioception, right? And so proprioception is your body's ability to sense movement, action, and location. So um, it is basically neurons in your muscles that are called proprioceptors, and they work with your muscles and firing with contractions to build up a repetitive action into memory, right? And so that way you can do things without thinking. This can be touching your nose with your eyes closed, or stepping, like walking and not knowing where you're stepping, right? Your brain just kind of knows that, and that's due to proprioception, right? And so you want to work in an intended area while taking your mind cognitively off that action. A little example of that is one of my clients who does rodeos. He came to me saying that he wanted to do some balance work. And so what I had him do is I had him stand on a Bosu ball, which is super hard to balance on. So he would do one foot, kind of balance on it, and then I would toss him a medicine ball. He'd have to catch it and toss it back. And so what that teaches is the proprioception in his feet, and all those muscles, neurons, and those transmitters in his feet have to stabilize and contract with the movement of his legs while he's cognitively thinking about catching that ball and throwing it back to me. So that translates to when he's riding the bull or doing whatever he does, he doesn't have to cognitively think about stabilizing those foot muscles because they already kind of act without thinking. And that's kind of how you improve that. And a lot of that has to do with the unilateral footwork. You want to do certain exercises, balances, stuff like that on one foot. So that teaches that proprioception in that foot, and then on the other foot going forward. And so the benefits of that is kind of increased ability with daily tasks, really, and it also decreases your risk of injury when it comes to like falling and stuff like that. Okay, so the next one is core. And so core is muscles in your lower torso that work together to create and enhance stability in your vertebral column and prevent back injuries from too much load. And so how do you work on that core? You do really core strengthening exercises, right? So this is like planks, Russian twists, Pallof press, and trunk movements, stuff like that. And I think this is most important for athletes first because you are put into injury-prone positions when you're doing your sport, and so having a really strong core is very important to kind of prevent those injuries from occurring. Next is like powerlifting, CrossFit. Those are areas of training that your body is going to be taking a big load, and it's very, very, very important to have a very strong core when you're taking those loads, once again, to prevent injury. Having a good core is good for bracing, so you can move more weight, perform actions and exercises better. Specifically, like if you're squatting or benching, when you have a good core and you can brace well, you're able to move more weight and perform, the best technique, with the best, like to the best of your ability, right? And so there are 35 different core muscle groups, and we want to work all of them through different movements for the best ability. And so benefits from this is athletes' performance, right, in all their sports, better technique of exercise, your decreased risk of injury, and then of course healthy spine and erector spinae. Erector spinae are the muscles that are that run down your spine, that kind of hold it together, allow it to flex, extend, and stuff like that. And before I get to the next one, I just want to talk about a little bit about Liquid IV. And so, what is that? It's a superior hydration formula. Liquid IV uses CTT technology that has a precise ratio of sodium, glucose, and potassium that allows for water to be delivered to your bloodstream earlier in the absorption process. There's an expedited delivery of water to your body, which ultimately makes you more hydrated and feel better. Liquid IV's mission is to help people everywhere live better lives, and they've definitely done that by totaling over 16 million servings donated worldwide. So that's really cool, really nice of them. I drink them almost every single day. I love their flavors. They got lots of flavors. They're coming out with new ones. So go check that out. You can use my code Marcos Papakostas for 25% off plus free shipping. You just go to liquidiv.com and then put it in the discount code, and then you'll be all good. So next, flexibility. And so what is flexibility? Flexibility is the quality of bending easily without breaking, or the ability to move joints effectively through a complete range of motion. And so ROM, which is range of motion, refers to how far you can stretch a body part through its entire joint. Right, and so the goal of flexibility training is to increase that ROM, that range of motion, through stretching exercises. And so something that is not the exact same thing is mobility, and mobility is how freely you can move through a desired joint. And so this really depends on muscle stiffness, muscle elasticity, inflammation, and pain. So range of motion refers to really the kind of mobility that you should have, when we talk about no injury, no inflammation, no pain, and no tightness and stuff like that. And then mobility refers to how you can move it, taking into account that type of elasticity, that type of stiffness, inflammation, pain, and all that stuff. And so a lot of times popular pain comes from a lack of flexibility, and that ties in with mobility. So a lot of times with shoulder pain, you have some muscles that are tight in the shoulder, some knee pain, you have some muscles that are tight in the knee. And so how do you work on flexibility? And it's really just stretching. You got to hold positions that lengthen your muscles for long periods of time to increase elasticity. But you always want to warm up before stretching, because stretching itself is not a warm up. That's very common misconception, that you do use a stretch to warm up, but you need to warm up before you stretch. Only because you need to get blood into those muscles before you stretch them, or they could pull, they can strain. So you want to be able to increase your body's temperature, get blood flow to those muscles so that they can allow them, so you can allow them to be stretched, right, and then increase that flexibility. For athletes, right, this is fairly common knowledge at this point, but you really want to do dynamic stretching before and then static stretching after. This is because dynamic stretching includes stretches that move your limbs. So in a way, it's stretching while increasing body temperature, while increasing blood flow to those muscles, so that we don't pull and strain them, but we also kind of stretch them at the same time. And then static, the reason why we can static stretch after, which is just holding a position to stretch a muscle, is because your body should already be warm before you do these stretches. And so that's why you'll already have blood in the muscles, already be increased temperature. So stretching them after statically is very beneficial. Also, another way to do this is yoga. Yoga is amazing, really good for athletes, really good for performance. And when it comes to flexibility, it takes time, right? You have to work on it for a very long time. It's easy to lose with static periods or immobility. So you really want to kind of get to a place where you're very flexible, very mobile, and then kind of keep at it, like whether it's stretching it once a day, stretching 4 times a week, whatever it is. You kind of want to keep that flexibility with you from throughout life, really. And the benefits of this is athletic performance, increased metabolism, believe it or not, and then less joint pain and a decreased risk of injury, right? And you're told this all the time by coaches and by athletes and stuff like that. But it really is really really important to keep your flexibility and keep those muscles elastic, especially when it comes to performing lifts, performing exercises, and anything like that. Okay. So that's kind of all I got for you with foundational training. I think it's super simple concept, but I think it's one that lacks a lot of popularity nowadays. I think it's very important for everyone really to engage in foundational training, even if you're a power lifter or if you're a bodybuilder or if you just play, baseball, whatever it is. It's super important to facilitate this type of exercise, this type of training, even while you're doing these other types of training. It'll improve it tremendously. You'll feel the effects. You'll feel less pain. You'll feel easier to move, do everyday life tasks and stuff like that. So I do really, really think it's relevant in today. And so moving forward, next episode could be nutrition, could be COVID-19 effects and recovery. That's something that I kind of have had some requests for, or it could be something else. I don't even know at this point. I have a lot written down, a lot that I want to cover. So just kind of look forward to that. And yeah, to follow content for this podcast, you can find us on Instagram, Applying Functional Anatomy. I'll be posting reminders for episode releases and anything else that relates to this podcast on there. If you listen on Spotify, make sure to turn on the notification bell. And if you could leave me a review, that would be awesome. I'll be reading reviews on here as the show grows. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to follow the show and also leave me a review. That would be great. I'll get to reading those as well. If you're listening on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. Tell me what you think in the comments. And then also you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at my full name, Marcos Papakostas. I also tweet motivational quotes every other Monday, and I put those on my Instagram story highlights. Don't be afraid to DM me for questions, podcast ideas, and anything like that. I'm more than willing to help out and kind of share and give my advice to you guys. Whatever I can do to help, I'm totally willing and I'm for that. So, guys, you were listening to Applying Functional Anatomy. Make 2022 your year for health, happiness, faith, and accomplishing all of your goals. Thank you for tuning in. I'll be back in the next one.